Bushfires seared through the King Lake district at temperatures more than 1,300 degrees Celsius, taking with it these incredible stands of 300-year-old trees. But what nature took away, nature is now slowly bringing back. Tonight on the Odyssey, the bushfire story that's never been told.
The very first time you walk through the forest and you hear the first bird, that lifted the soul.
A community coming together through the healing power of plants.
It's a small step, but it is a step that's in the process of healing, and it's a good one.
And some new feathered friends arrive home at the Backyard Revolution. You see, today is Chicken Selection Day. It's amazing to be driving through this landscape with these charred trunks on either side. And it's so stark, but then the closer you look, you realise that it's bursting back into life. This is the King Lake National Park just north of Melbourne. And a year after the Black Saturday fires wreaked havoc here, this area isn't dying, it's been reborn. The blackness, it sort of, for some reason, it feels like a cathedral towering over you. But you look through the trees and you can see the land shape. The awesome power of nature never ceases to amaze me, which is why I wanted to show you this incredibly resilient landscape so that we all can learn from its grandeur. Because out here, this isn't the end, it's the new beginning. Here, the towering mountain ash, or Eucalyptus regnans, are the kings of the forest, living for 300 years and growing to over 100 metres tall. Tragically, almost all of them were killed by the fires.
Right along here, we'll now see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little seedlings of the mountain ash coming up, like that. Okay?
Yeah. Mountain ash actually release their seeds during a fire, spreading the next generation of life onto the cleared ground. Horticulturalist Bill Molyneux is a leading expert on the Australian bush, and as a local to this area, he knows the cycle of life here intimately.
So they're going to take 100 years at least to get to a stage where they're really stabilising the soil.
100 years. Different plants use different strategies to survive fire. Tree ferns, for example, grow their fronds from the top inner layers of their trunks.
I suppose what always makes me stand back and in wonder after a fire is the way in which the tree ferns come back.
Others, like these stringy barks and peppermint eucalypts, send new shoots from dormant buds deep within the fibre of the tree. Grass trees burst into bloom after fire, growing millions of tiny flowers and ultimately seeds. The key to almost all of this remarkable growth doesn't so much lie in the fire itself, but in what it leaves behind. Look at this incredible landscape. It's grown from this, potash, a product of bushfires.
That black film in there, mixed now with the sand, is known as potash. And the mineral potash is essential in all horticulture for setting flower and bud and setting fruit.
Potash is simply created when plant matter burns. Ironically, forms of this natural fertiliser are readily available at nurseries and will help your plants set flower and fruit just as it's doing here. Tony Fitzgerald is a park ranger and long-time King Lake local. To him, the signs of new life in the forest are clear.
It used to be a silent forest after the fire for many months. And the very first time you walk through the forest and you hear the first bird, that lifted the soul. Yeah, absolutely.
This means that the cycle of life is kicking into gear, and the very same forces that create resilience in humanity also drive resilience within nature.
It's like there's two courses running parallel. You know, as the community is going through its recovery, in the background is this forest that's doing the same. So it's an exciting time, and it's nice to have that running in parallel in the background.
Being a part of these spectacular landscapes today was an incredible privilege. But the best part about it all is that Mother Nature is in control and she's bringing it all back.
Like the surrounding bush, the people of Kinglake are in the long process of healing and rebuilding. You see, of all the places hit by the Black Saturday bushfires, Kinglake was one of the worst, with 328 buildings destroyed and 26 lives tragically lost. But the community here is moving on, and nowhere can that be seen more clearly than at the Kinglake Temporary Village, where residents are making a new start and rebuilding the basics of life.
I mean, just driving up that road, it's pretty overwhelming.
It is. That was my learning curve. When I drove up here, that was the sort of thing I looked at and I thought, well, this is a place we need to come and help.
Landscape gardener Bernie Sullivan is a manager at the nearby Yarraview Nursery and was a volunteer for the support crew during the fires. Today, he's come to Kinglake to help bring this community together through the simple healing power of plants.
You heard stories you didn't want to hear, you saw things you didn't want to see. But at the end of the day, we didn't suffer like the people out there that did. But we smile, we get on with it, we build some veggie boxes, mate, and we make some people happy. It'll fit down at the other end. And once it's on there, you'll be able to get a perfect level, keep it all nice and even.
After careful consultation with the locals here, Bernie's hatched a plan to install 6 new veggie gardens, a water tank and some citrus trees to bring the community together through gardening. And he's brought along an inspiring group of workers to help him do it.
All our mates here are here to help out as much as we can with all the bushfire and just doing the best we can.
Bernie runs a scheme that helps these special needs workers get hands-on landscape experience, and all of them have volunteered for today's mission.
That's really great, helping these people out, all the fires they had, and it's been good doing this for the people and helping them out, so it's really fantastic. It's great.
For locals like Pam, who lost everything in the fire, including her cherished 30-year-old garden, being able to get her hands in the dirt again is an important part of moving on and soothing the soul.
I think it's a wonderful idea. You know, particularly lemon trees. Are they lemon trees over there?
Yeah, there's some I think there's a lime and a lemon and an orange. Are you interested in helping plant out?
I'll plant. I'll go and get my gloves.
Yeah, do that.
Sure.
Because the planting's going to begin in there's one more bed to build.
Okay.
And the planting's going to begin in about a half an hour.
Okay, I'll be
So
here.
come on back, put the
Thank
gloves
you.
on and get into it.
Okay.
Building a veggie garden like this at your place is an easy exercise. All you need to do is buy 7 2x4 metre sleepers from the hardware store, cut 2 of them in half for the ends and use the last one for the posts. Most hardware stores will cut them to measure, so you don't even need a saw. Screw them all together and away you go.
Bernie, you've got 2 different soil mixes here. What's this one?
This soil here, that's just a normal sandy loam.
Yep.
We put that on the base of the bed, which will give drainage. Whereas the second soil is a composted mix, blended in with some mountain soil through it. It's got horse manure, chook manure.
Yeah, that holds together,
It
doesn't it?
certainly does, and that'll hold the water up the top. So we want it to be able to drain as well, so that you don't get root rot.
Yeah, well, I mean, it breaks, it crumbles away, but there's still enough.
That's right,
There's
got a bit of
enough
guts to it.
Yeah.
If you're building garden beds like this at your place, remember that most soils will settle a little in the first few weeks. So make sure you fill it to just below the rim. That way there'll be a bit of room to add mulch now and then compost a little down the track.
Well, Anton and the team have done a fantastic job. The 6 beds are almost all filled. The veggies are being set out. And coming up after the break, all the locals here, they're gathering for a barbecue and a planting out of their new garden beds. Are you ready to plant out?
Now that we've built our beds here at the King Lake Temporary Village, it's time to hand the garden over to the local community, who'll plant it out, maintain and then reap the rewards of their new abundant landscape.
The thing about a community event such as this is that on the day it builds, and you can feel it building to a point where, look at this, everyone's involved, all ages, the little ones. They're here, they're watching, they're observing. Everyone's got their hand in the soil, they're planting something, they're going to watch it grow, and then they're going to harvest what they planted.
To take advantage of the north-facing aspect and avoid overshadowing, we'll be planting the rear 3 garden beds with tall plants like tomatoes and then keeping the 3 front beds for smaller crops like eggplants, broccoli and strawberries. Because we've used a quality planter box mix, there's no need to add any fertiliser, but make sure you give your plants a good water as soon as they're in the ground.
It's fantastic because it's bringing all the community together, which is a great thing, and people that you wouldn't normally perhaps see or talk to, you get to talk to, and it's really a great experience.
Bernie, how do you feel?
Pretty good, mate. It's a good feeling. I mean, you've just given something to someone that has lost a lot. You know, a lot of these people had their own veggie gardens. They've all gone. Now they've got their veggie gardens back, and you can see the smiles. It's a small step, but it is a step that's in the process of healing, and it's a good one.
Next up, we'll install a rainwater tank fed by the roof next door.
Mate, is this how they built the Parthenon? Come on. No wonder it fell down.
I reckon we should sack Bernie and use you for boss. You know what you're doing.
The final part of the garden is to put 4 citrus along this fence line, which will create the perfect backdrop for the garden from the community centre over there. When you've dug your hole, the guys have gone and dug a great hole here, and the other thing they've done is puncture the sides of the hole so that you don't create a polished tube which will make the citrus grow in a root-bound way, and the roots will grow in circles. So all that's been punctured. We've got some nice broken-up soil in the bottom. We've got a barrow full of our good soil. And what we'll do is mix some of this good soil in with our existing clay.
Water the hole and tease out the roots to give the plant a head start. And in clay soil like this, it's critical to plant above the ground level to help with drainage.
Well, there's our nice imperial mandarin in the ground. It's already got fruit on it, so believe it or not, they'll actually get a few mandarin to pick this season, which is fantastic.
With some simple materials and a few hours' work, Bernie and his team have built a garden that will genuinely help this community.
You can't help but feel the spirit and goodwill of all the volunteers who helped build the garden here today. But the thing is, 6 planter boxes with some vegetables in them aren't enough to feed the entire temporary village. But what it is doing is helping to feed the spirit of the place. And just down the road is another project where plants are helping to bring community together.
Ever dreamt of living in your very own alternative paradise, where you can grow your own veggies, supply your own power, and surround yourself with like-minded people? Well, here at Mora, 45 kilometres away from King Lake, is an inspiring community that is turning that dream into a reality. Simon Woodland is the community spokesman and has been living here with his family for 7 years.
So the community was established on three goals, or three principles really. One was cooperation. You know, everyone here wants to live together and work together. Another was reducing our environmental impact. And the third was education, you know, having people like yourself come and stick their nose in and see if there's anything you can learn from us. Not that we're doing it all right, but, you know, hopefully we're playing with some things here that, you know, other people will find interesting and be able to take home.
Mora Mora is made up of 6 small hamlets with 30 homes and approximately 70 residents. It's Australia's oldest running alternative community. But after Black Saturday, it's lucky to still be standing.
On the next mountain across is King Lake, so we could see it coming. The whole northern sky here was full, like, of smoke clouds. You know, living in a place like this, you have to accept that it'll burn one day. It's supposed to. So we just need to accept that and prepare for it and be ready when it comes.
One of the benefits of living on the Mora Mora community is that you have access to this farm-fresh, colourful, organic produce. I mean, how good is this?
Luke Rowland and Amy Glastonbury have been living in Mora Mora for 4 years. They grow veggies as part of what's called a community-supported agriculture scheme, which means people pay an upfront fee and get a box of seasonal veggies every week for most of the year.
So how big is this whole production area?
It's just over an acre. It's about 1.2 acres. We actually have more room to expand a bit, so we could do more garden beds.
Luke and Amy grow 30 different varieties of veggies. They practice crop rotation and also run chickens and a pig over fallow ground to increase soil fertility.
Has there been any particular veggie that's gone great guns, better than you thought?
Well, it seems like the root veggies do really well here. The beetroot, as you can see, are very nice.
Beetroot's amazing.
And the potatoes do really well up here.
And the carrots.
Carrots.
Yeah.
All radishes. We can grow beautiful daikon, this Japanese, white Japanese
the white one,
radish.
yeah,
They grow really
yeah.
big.
Yeah.
And because of our beautiful soil here, they grow really well.
This topsoil's over 800 millimetres deep, and as you can see, it's got all the components perfect for growing great crops. It holds together so the moisture stays in it, but then it crumbles so that the feeder roots can move through and get everything they need.
For Luke and Amy, living here is an opportunity to get close to nature and grow some fantastic produce. But here, the benefits of an alternative lifestyle like this are many.
What is it about the place that you like?
Well, it's really nice to live in a place where you know all your neighbours. There's 30 families living up here, and we know everyone, and just a sense of community and knowing the people that live next door.
Everyone living in Mora Mora has a share in the land, as well as the main infrastructure and machines like tractors. They have their own supply of fresh spring water, and the entire community generates all its electricity from solar panels and even a mini hydro plant.
So what does the water actually do when it reaches here?
Well, Costa, what it does is it turns this turbine, and by turning the turbine, it generates power. So this is particularly good as a backup in winter when we've got less solar power. We can use the movement of the water coming down from our top dam to generate power for our whole cluster. So we share that power amongst it.
Simon has built this entire house from scratch, using poured earth and hay bale building techniques that dramatically drop his carbon footprint.
And there you have it.
Look at that, it's beautiful.
Oh, thanks. So that's 24 hours old.
Really?
That's the soil from right here on the site, mixed with about 10% cement and shovelled in between these planks. Bob's your uncle.
Fantastic. The lifestyle here in Mooramora may not have all the answers, but for the people who live here, it's a step in the right direction and a way of life that in this day and age can be all too hard to find.
If there's one word that sums up this place, it's support. I would never have had the guts to do something like this on my own block in the middle of nowhere.
Up next, choosing feathered friends for the backyard revolution. And guys, we've got everything. We're going to release the... Things have been going great guns at the Tembalesky's place. Scene of my backyard revolution. So far, we've repaved, replanted and revitalised, turning this backyard in the suburbs into an abundant, sustainable haven.
Oh, guys, you're here. After all the planning, design and construction, it's time for the boys to select the new members of the family. You see, today is chicken selection day.
The boys will be getting 1 chicken each, which should be enough to supply the whole family with fresh eggs. Hello, Chris. Did you see me? I can never hide. Chickens are the greatest recyclers, turning food scraps into beautiful compost. And it's a good idea to buy them from a chicken specialist like this one, who are used to setting up backyard operations and can give you everything you'll need.
Have a look at this.
This is an exciting day with 4 species to choose from. Isa Browns, Australorps, White Leghorns and Rhode Island Reds. Look who's here.
How are we going, Costa?
Hi, Damien. How are you?
Good.
Now, guys, meet Damien. This is Chris.
Hello. Hey, Chris.
This is Timmy.
Timmy.
Raph. And Yanni.
Hey, Yanni.
Damien is a chicken expert and can brief the boys with all the information they need to keep happy, healthy chooks. The boys go for 2 Isa Browns and 2 Australorps. Both are good with kids and they're excellent layers, producing between 250 to 270 fresh eggs a year. For the new chook fancier, are there any tricks to handling the chook?
Just always try and grab it around the wings. Just nice and gentle, but firm still.
Yep.
Hold their wings so they can't flap about. And their claws are quite sharp, so just try and be careful of their claws. But that's about it. Just nice and gentle. Try and be calm. Don't try and chase them around the yard. Once they get used to you, you'll be able to pick them up quite easily.
Make sure to ask that your chooks have been vaccinated. You'll also need some straw or lucerne for the pen, food and water dispensers, feed pellets, and finally, some mite powder to keep away the nasties.
Your lice and your mites.
And guys, we've got everything. I've loaded it into the van, and I'll see you back at your place in about half an hour. You ready?
Yep.
We're going to release the...
Chicken!
To keep your chooks healthy and productive, it's important to prepare your pen inside and out properly. First up, lay down some lice powder and then cover the whole area with a good dose of straw or hay. Everything should be cleared out and the whole process repeated at least once a week to keep the pen as hygienic as possible. Number 1. Yay! There it is. Put in the chooks and you're ready for business. So each time you refill the food, you just unhook it there, take it out, fill it up, and then bring it back. At only about $20 per chook to buy, and with close to no running costs, chooks are a great way to give your family fresh, healthy eggs for next to nothing. Most chickens will settle in quickly to their new homes, and depending on the species, they should start laying by the time they're about 18 to 22 weeks old. Well, that's it for the Backyard Revolution this week, and we've done it. Our chickens are in their new home. They're settling in. What do you think, guys?
Cool!
See you next time. Next week, the town saved by the power of plants.
I just want to buy a ticket and get on board this loco.
The search for underground gold.
The fungi to end all fungis. It's a truffle hunt. Come on, Rex.
And our Backyard Revolution, gets a fruit forest.
Now, I've dug my planting hole here. My supervisor's keeping an eye on me to see if the depth was correct.